we grew up right outside New Orleans.
Okay.
And just, I think, New Orleans is such an amazing artistic city. It kind of spread from there. So even growing up a little bit outside the city, like it wasn't uncommon to be 11 and 12 and 13 and have a band. And so that was what we were into. We had friends that did it.
Yeah.
And like Ben was saying, we had a really amazing teacher growing up that would record us and, record the songs we had written or teach us different, ways of playing. And so that was having that sort of kind of supportive figure was huge for us in terms of like developing as songwriters and just being excited about music.
Yeah, totally.
I also think too that one big benefit that Nashville also has is that, like, growing up in New Orleans, there's a lot of great local music being made at all times, and we really made an effort to try to like learn more about it and spend time on it. And I feel like Nashville has the exact same thing, where there's like a lot of great music being made, and it's diverse, and it's a great way of learning more about music in general, but also learning about what's going on around you and kind of developing your own taste and what you like to listen to.
I don't necessarily remember titles, but I remember the first time Ben was playing guitar and I was playing bass, and we had found another guitarist that we could play with when we were kids, and then a drummer as well. I remember the first time we were jamming and coming up with something together as like a group, and that feeling like a really just amazing thing. It's fun doing something like that for the first time. Is like something you definitely don't forget.
Yeah. I definitely remember the first time there's definitely something special about work, like getting to just do music with other people for the first time. It's really like inspiring, kind of regardless of what it is. It's just something about creating something together that you could have done by yourself.
Kind of how the process will work is Ben and I will usually work on songs separately, and then we'll come together and show each other the things that we worked on. And a lot of times we'll act as each other's editors, or maybe if there's like a section of a song missing, we'll be like, what about trying this? What about trying that? And then sometimes we'll just get together and without any sort of preconceived idea and just try to jam on it. And I just spontaneously jam on, a chord progression or a couple of notes, or even start with a drum beat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it happens. And we've also done some writing as well too. That's probably the thing we do the least of in terms of like what we do for Airpark.
Sure.
But co-writing is really fun because, like Ben was saying a little earlier, you end up getting in a room with someone and it's always surprising, usually in a good way, where things go. You create something that you couldn't do on your own. And I think has a ton of value. And
you also learn, I think even subconsciously, when people write songs, they have these little like techniques or these little kind of like writing habits they do, and they're not even aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool. It's like a very unique subconscious thing. And when you write with someone else, you pick up on theirs, whatever theirs are, and they pick up on yours, whether you even realize you're doing it or not. And so I think regardless of whether like how the song turns out, you still learn something, like no matter what you're going to learn, like in a co-write, like whether it's something like that you do want to do again or wouldn't do again, or like just like a trick you remember. I think there's always like a takeaway, and it's just like a healthy exercise to write a song. I think it's just good for the brain.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's interesting where you have to write a song in order to get to the next one, which I know kind of sounds like a songwriting cliche, but it actually is very true. Like sometimes there's songs that don't make it end up being the songs that get you to the songs that do help, that do make it, that do feel like your project. And so I think they all have value even if they don't come out.
Right.
I also think your feelings change as you change as a human being. The way you feel about the music you create will change. Like most people are most excited about what they're currently writing at that moment, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, if you have songs that you write and you're not sure how to feel about them, you can always just record a demo of them or a voice memo and then keep them somewhere and then be able to return to them later. Maybe later you're like, oh, now's a great time for me to put out this group of songs that feels like a little different. Or I think it's just good to catalog stuff and keep it. And like Michael said, I think you do write. The more you write, the better you get. And also it gets you, I do feel as well that like you write through songs, like, songs lead to other songs.
Mm-hmm.
I just said songs like 20 times in 30 seconds.
Kind of comes naturally.
Yeah, I think the brain kind of goes there on its own. I don't think it's a requirement to finish a song or write a song. I think you can just, there's just like lyrics that you want to share with people, or there's like a, you know, whatever the case may be. But I do think, I think we both found that after a while, your mind kind of starts going like, what would like the drum beat be underneath this, or like, you know, would like keys be cool on this, or is it more? I mean, I feel like you kind of just start doing those things, but I don't think your brain has to do those things to write or finish a song.
Yeah, I mean, we've finished songs before that we had no idea what to do with in terms of production. You know, like we know we like the song, but then everything else around it we weren't sure. So we brought in someone that we trusted, and we were like, "How would you?" The producer, and we asked them, "How would you present this song?" And then they were like, "We should do it like this." And we said, "All right." You know, so it's good that you can kind of bounce those things off of other creative people that you trust. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would say that as we've been doing this, you know, as we've been doing the touring thing and the playing shows thing for a while now, and I think one thing that's really helps is that when you kind of realize that the live show doesn't have to be like the recording, and it's okay to let them live in two different worlds, as long as they both do their thing well. And so when we take stuff from the recordings to the live show, a lot of times what we're doing is, if there's a lot going on in recording, we're figuring out how few people can cover all these parts. And so those limitations bring out a different kind of creativity.
Sure.
And you have to choose the melody lines you want to highlight. So it's pretty different, but the more you do it, you know, it's always like a learning process, but the more you do it, the more you're kind of like, it becomes easier.
We definitely, but I mean, all that to say, ultimately we think it's like, as Michael said, they can be different. Like I don't think there's any pressure to recreate what happened in the studio in a live setting. And I also don't think you should limit what happens in the studio because of the live setting. Like, well, how are we going to do this? Let's like not re-record it. It's like, I think both worlds are so wonderful and they can exist separately but complementary to each other. And so I don't think there's any reason to limit either side of it because of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds like, you know, something that you would say kind of no matter what's happening, but try to keep writing. You know, even when you don't feel inspired, sometimes when you sit down with a guitar or a piano, whatever you choose to write with, sometimes it's the act of sitting down that can lead to inspiration. So at times when we're all separated from each other, it can be really hard to find the inspiration to create. You know, it can be difficult. And so sometimes it's just a matter of trying and seeing what happens. That's what I would say. That's happened for me a lot. Sometimes I don't feel inspired when I sit down to try to write a song, but it just kind of finds you.
Yeah.
So,
and I would say, I guess playing off of that, try not to, while you're writing a song or an idea comes to you, don't judge it in the middle of it. Like just kind of finish writing it and then see how you feel about it after. Cause I think it's hard to finish anything if the whole time you're critically thinking, you know, how's it received? How do I feel about this? Like, don't be so hard on yourself in the creative process. You know, like you can go, like as Michael said earlier, you can always change, rewrite lyrics or change a part of a song or, you know, there's no hard and fast rules. So don't inadvertently prevent yourself from creating because you're judging the material before it's even finished.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And also, you know, one thing, now I'm about to just go for a minute, I can tell. What Michael mentioned this earlier.
How you got?
Here we go. Well, no, I was gonna say, also, I think instrumental music is just as valid as music with lyrics. And that's another way to express yourself. Michael brought that up earlier today because we both listening to a lot of jazz music or instrumental soul music, and it's if you're motivated to create music but not necessarily write lyrics, like that's okay. Or if you just, you know, if you feel like mostly lyrical, you know, like you don't have to create some crazy backing track to it. It can be simple, you know. So I just don't limit yourself by feeling like, oh, I don't really write lyrics. It's like, well,
either way, it's a great outlet.
Yeah, either way, I think it's a good and healthy thing to do, you know. So, you know, write some instrumental music. Okay.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I feel like there's a lot of pressure to like add lyrics to music a lot of times. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Especially early songwriting, you're like, oh, I just need to,
Yeah.
Totally.